It's Linda MacPhee's workshop. Here's Linda.
Oh, that music gets me going every time. I love sewing, and I love that you're watching me today because I've got some exciting stuff on the show. I love the creative part of sewing and where it takes me because there's just so many different things you can do, so little time. My guest is Linda Freund, and you run a shop called Rumpled Quilt Skins. I think that is so wonderful. So how did you ever come up with that?
3 o'clock in the morning, the night before I needed a name.
Okay, that's so often when we come up with our best.
That's
when
right.
We're really under the gun and under the pressure.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, and I've, since meeting you and finding out what you do some wonderful things with machine stitching on your quilts and on your garments. And I think that's so exciting because so many times we've got a machine that's got all these stitches and everybody says, oh, I don't need all those stitches. But you do.
We hear that all the time, and so we asked ourselves that, why do you need all those stitches? And as we started playing with them, we realized that the more stitches you have, the more fun you have.
Okay, so prove to me then, why do I need all these stitches?
Okay, let's have a look at this one. This is an applique. This is machine applique, so the technique is a bit different. But one of the stitches that everybody has on their machine is a satin stitch, and that's a zigzag, which are the stitches that you normally use to fasten your fabric to the backing.
Sure.
But after that's done, there are many...
Pretty well every machine has that. So
every machine that has a zigzag, except those old straight stitch machines. Yes. The next stitch that most people want is the blanket stitch, which is the one that's going around her face here. The blanket stitch is a more open stitch, but gives you a country look, and everybody wants country today.
Yes, and I think it's nice to just have a variety, so it's just not the same thing. It's not. It doesn't become boring, it becomes creative then.
That's right, and variety gives you also texture and movement in your quilt. So if you look on the roof line here, this is a decorative stitch that's one of my favorites that we use a lot because I like to do buildings a lot too.
It looks kind of like shingles.
You're right, it does. Yeah. Isn't that neat? And it's so easy. The machine just does it for you. There's no manipulating that you have to do. And then you can see there's little hearts on the bottom of her skirt.
And some little stars around there. That's a different way to applicate.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, let's move on and see what else.
So this is beginning applique. As I said, this is a little bit more advanced. In these little old ladies, you're choosing a fabric that corresponds to the personality of the lady.
Sure.
So the big fat lady has big fat flowers on her hips. The skinny lady has skinny ones. And to achieve that skinniness, we put little pleats in with the satin stitch.
Sure.
And we've added decorative stitches and decorative threads to their hats in many color.
Yeah. I do love that buttonhole stitch or blanket stitch, and I know all of the machines don't have that, so that's something you do have to check.
I don't know if everybody at home can see, but if you see around her thumb, you can manipulate that blanket stitch right around her thumb, which is a very, very small area, probably 2 millimeters wide. So you got great control with that stitch.
And of course, this is all, no, that's not done by machine.
No, that's a little bit of cheating stuff, which is okay to do once in a while.
Sure it is. Okay, let's look at this one.
Okay, now you have in your hand.
This fascinates me because this is the panel that you started out with.
That's right, and when you're a beginner, you don't always want to do all the steps to applique, so you can buy pre-made panels.
And then embellish.
What we've done here is added all kinds of decorative stitches up and down the trees, around the houses, up and down the quilt, on the edges of the leaves, that add some texture. You don't really notice much of a difference, but you can sure see up close and you can feel it.
I daren't say paint by number, but it seems to me like this is just a really fun paint by number because you're using your own paint. The picture's there and you can just add.
But it gives you more time and more chance, because you know how precious time is, more time to play with the stitches as opposed to doing the square pieces that you
and they can become quite different. I mean, everybody can make a different one.
That's what happens in a class. Everybody does the same piece of fabric and they all turn out extremely different.
Yes, I'm sure. So about this one looks wonderful.
This is one of my very first applique pieces that I ever did, and I like it because this is where I learned my machine. And in the beginning, I didn't know what my stitches looked like till I actually stitched them out. So I stitch on a piece of scrap first, but all the flowers that are in the flower boxes here, some people say, oh, that's embroidery, but it's not really embroidery, it's just decorative stitches. The little cornices on the building are decorative stitches.
And when you say the difference between embroidery and decorative stitches is that the embroidery you put in and it comes out as a set design.
That's right.
But you build these with your stitches.
That's right. This is a little bit more creative.
Sure.
In that you get to manipulate what kind of stitch you're going to use, how it's going to look as far as width and length, and where you're going to use it. So another one of my favorite parts on this one are the little frilly flowers that come up out of this box, and you can see the decorative stitch on the front of that flower box. And my very favorite are the sweet peas on the fence. And so that was two different techniques. It was using pictograms, which are little satin
So you have
stitches.
done all of those sweet peas all over that fence. Yeah.
And there's no plan, which is the creative part of it. There's no plan.
Well, the joy of that is that there's no wrong.
That's right. Nobody knows.
Yes, exactly. Let's come over here then and see what you've done on this. In fact, I think this looks like a great idea. You said that you've got the workbook, and you suggest that we take all of our machine stitches and make a plan so that you can see what they look like.
You'd be surprised how everybody does not know what stitches their machines do or what they look like. And this is also a better idea. This is like a little workbook so that when you want to create a stitch, you can go up and down your sheets and say, well, that's the one that I want.
Sure.
And then go to that number and do it. So it's a great idea no matter what machine you have if you stitch out all of your stitches.
Okay, let's look at some of them in detail then.
This is my very favorite wall hanging. It's the newest one that we've done. My daughter and I did this one together. And it has texture stitches. This is a candle wicking stitch. And this is a programmed applique stitch that you create in your sewing machine.
Okay.
It has satin stitches on it. It has, even these fishnet stockings are just a decorative stitch. Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
Over here on the pleated skirt, it looks pleated because of the stitch that's on the end, and it's actually just a flat piece of fabric. Her little slouch socks look like they're actually slouched because of the stitch on there. This is just a decorative stitch. And so you're going to use whatever stitch you have on your machine to play with the applique as it is.
This is a whole hodgepodge of interesting stitches and threads. I mean, this now becomes a very creative expression, and I mean, you are a master. This must just keep you delighted for hours and hours.
It keeps me busy for hours and hours,
No, I think this is...
And you always go back to the basics. This still has the blanket stitch because you still like how it looks. It still has lots of satin stitch because that connects your two pieces of fabric together.
Sure. Let's go over to the sewing machine then. Okay, and then you can show me.
Now, remember I said the two basic stitches that everybody likes to use is the satin stitch, which is right here, and the blanket stitch. Everybody has a satin stitch because that's just a zigzag that's shortened the stitch length. The blanket stitch everybody doesn't have, but it's lots of fun to use, so you might want to look at other machines that give you that capability.
Sure, because it's such a country look, like you said.
It is country. I'm going to go back to the menu and show you where the roofline stitch is because I use that a lot. So in this stitch, you have a repeated angled satin stitch, which is all done for you. That's kind of neat. If I go down to adjust, I can make my stitch length shorter and a little bit narrower, so depending on the size of the building that I'm making. And then also, as I go to the point, you see how this is kind of shingling down this way? I can mirror image it, so now it's going the other way.
So you can do a lot by just playing here, but I think the secret to this whole thing is get a piece of fabric and start stitching, have a look at it, just like you said, make your workbook.
Good point. After you do the workbook, like I said, you'll be so surprised at what your stitches actually look like.
Sure. Linda, this is exciting. This does add a whole new element to the quilting. The one behind me is just an amazing work of art. So
it is.
There's just no end of possibilities. So thank you so much for getting us inspired on this one.
You're welcome, Linda.
Okay, and we've got more to come. The thing I love so much about sewing is that there's so many possibilities. And of course, these little animals are so cute and so quick. So we've got Carol Cruz, who's invented, or you've birthed all these animals, and you know, they have just been great fun. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Linda.
I think it's kind of neat that you've actually made how many different animals are there?
Well, I have 17 right now and a few more in the incubator.
Okay. But I think the neat part of what I've just sort of become aware of is that you've now used these animals to go further.
Absolutely.
Like they have now become...
Into clothing, accessories, decorative items. Oh, yes.
You're going to like this. Okay, let's have a look. Are you coming? Here we go. Can you imagine?
I was asked to do a piece of wearable art for a friend who was having a 50th birthday. And so I made my original bear and sewed it on to the end of a scarf.
Like so, yeah.
And I think this would be a wonderful
And how
item.
did this work out? Was she delighted?
Oh,
then with this?
absolutely.
You said that
Absolutely. She wouldn't even let me borrow it back to bring to the show.
So you have a scarf with the tassels on the one end and the bear on the other. I think this is just too cute, too cuddly. I mean, this could be the purse. This could be any number of things. You don't have to have bears just sitting on your bed.
And then I have another one here in a different color, too.
Yeah. So we'll have a better look at that. So thank you very much, Kathleen. That's great. Yes. All right, so your animals can be with you at all times.
Right.
This is and what you actually made the bear and then just stitched it on to the end of the scarf.
Correct.
So here is your scarf. You have some other scarves here. So, in fact, I think you have kind of a love affair with this.
I definitely do. And this is another area I've gotten into with the embroidery. And I'll show you how I went about this.
Yeah.
But then I also added some beads to it.
I think beads add so much to the embroidery. They just give a little bit more texture. Just add to
They
the whole
really
thing.
do.
Yeah.
When you use an embroidery pattern, you have to use a little more filled in one
and
so you can
especially
see
with
it.
the texture of this. Otherwise, it could kind of get lost if you don't add some oomph to it. So that's kind of
That's true.
Yeah.
But when I made these, I also realized that dress fringe looked a little too wimpy. So
Yes,
this is upholstery fringe
Sure,
on here.
Yeah. I'm not into wimpy. We've got to have some. Yes, good.
Right. But I want to show you, you talked about the love affair with the furs. These are just absolutely beautiful.
Yes, and of course
luxury
these are not
furs.
real furs. These
Oh,
are-
no,
yeah,
they're not
yeah,
real
yeah,
furs.
yeah.
The only thing that
But they
died
give you-
here was a bunch of little polyesters.
Exactly. Yeah, okay, all right. So you can take any of these and make them into any number of things.
Right.
You've got some sewing tips that I think
I
are
want to
kinda
show
neat.
you just a couple of real quick techniques. They're very, very easy and simple. For this, I will use my dressmaker shears, and hopefully we can see this. You want to slide, you work from the back,
Sure.
and you want to slide your scissors points up underneath, and you want to take short, sharp little snips at the tips of your scissors. So your scissors have to be really sharp.
But I think we have to point out that you just took a very little bite of that. You didn't
Yeah.
go right through. You just sort of skimmed the inside of that.
I start with a snip.
Yeah, and you just kind
And
of
then I just,
Yeah.
And sometimes if it appears jerky, it's only because my scissors points are catching in the fibers. And so I just back it off and start again. But then, see, you just pull it apart.
And you don't get all of that mess, first of all, and you don't get all of that, you don't waste all of that. So if you were to sew two pieces together, then...
Well, I hold the pieces gently.
Yeah.
Tuck it, handy-dandy little sock knitting needle, and I pinch it together, and I pin it at a right angle.
Okay, yep.
And this way, you can pull your pins out. You don't stitch over your pins.
Okay.
Now, there's a piece over here that I put together that you were going to show of the stitches. This one right here.
Oh, yes, okay, yes. And basically, this is what you've done then, is sewing your straight stitch with all that.
That's the straight
tucked in.
stitch.
Yeah.
This is the hinged seam, which you can do on clothing.
Zigzag, in other words.
Zigzag, yes.
So if you
Yes.
actually zigzag sort of on and off the edge, you get kind of a butted seam, and because it's bulky, it does make a very nice seam.
You cannot see the seam.
no.
And the one thing I advise is that when you're doing your test seams, you want to mark down what your width and your length
Sure.
are, because sometimes if you go and experiment with others, then you forget what you did in the first place.
Sure. Okay, so then that could be for any garment sewing or whatever you're going to make. You have made purses, and of course the big purse over here with the embroidery on it again is just quite a wonderful thing. And of course you can do it embroidery on your bears and all.
Well, I was fooling around with this, and I have this wonderful piece of what I call ivory mink. Of course, remember, it's not not for real.
Yeah, that's okay, sure.
And I thought, well, wouldn't this make a wonderful Christmas puppy?
Yeah.
So I embroidered across the paws of the puppy.
Did you cut them out first, or did you do it just like this?
I cut the fronts out, sewed it down the center front, then did the embroidery.
Okay.
Why don't we get the embroidery hoop and we can show the process for that. You see, you can't hoop the fur.
Because it's too thick.
it'll leave a, well, yes, it is too thick, but it'll leave a mark, and you don't want that. So you want to use a sticky, and you can use a spray or the tearaway sticky. You hoop that.
Yeah.
Then you press the back of your fur down to that sticky.
Sure.
And then put some water-soluble tearaway on the top.
Sure.
And then just start stitching.
Yeah.
And when it's finished, you pull off the excess and then just use a spray bottle of water to get rid of what has stuck in the embroidery pieces.
Sure.
Now, once I did that, I decided, all right, This, by the way, is 1/2 of a scarf.
Okay.
And I got so tired of scarves falling off that I made it 72 inches.
They won't fall off.
Right.
You'll trip on them, but they won't fall off. Okay, all right.
And what I do as a hint is I mark on the edges every 4.5 inches on not only my scarf,
But on your lining.
but on my lining.
Yeah. You were saying
Because
one of the issues here is that this is going to creep.
You
So I
are
think that's
sewing
great
a
idea.
napped fabric
Yeah.
to a non-napped fabric, and the lining is going to creep on you even though you've cut them both the same.
And you're going to stitch from this side.
And I stitch with the lining on the top, correct. And so I will pin it at each one of those 4.5 inch
Sure.
increments, and then because I'm a pinning fool,
I can see that.
Yes.
A pinning fool is right. But no, that's good. I think
Well,
it's better to be safe.
someone
Absolutely.
said to me, do you really need all those pins? Probably not. But the more you pin and tuck,
Sure. Yeah.
the more professional, the nicer that your finished product
Yeah.
is going to be.
Yeah.
And this is the purse. It only comes in 3 pieces. It's so easy to put together because
Okay.
it's the purse bag or the lining,
Yeah.
the top of the purse, the bottom of the purse.
Okay. And then you're going to put your handle in there first.
Correct.
And then you're going to fold this like this. I can
Over
tell,
like
and you're
this,
gonna
and you
that
sew
up
down
there.
that side, and then, as I've done on that one, you will spread it out, sew across
Yeah.
here, and
Pull it
then
all in through, yeah.
you pull that. This is the strongest magnet.
Yes, that is.
You pull
yes.
the whole thing through like this, stitch across this,
Stick it in there.
Put
and
it
we're
back
talking
in.
Done. Except for embroidery or whatever you want
Now,
to do.
see, this is a really nice palette
Sure.
for embroidery features.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think you've sort of got us excited about using scraps and using pieces and using everything. There is no end to this. So
There isn't.
thank you so much, Carol. This has been
Thank
great again.
you.
Okay, and don't go away. We'll be back. I love quick and easy. I mean, if you can make it and wear it the same day, that's my idea of a good time. So that's what we're going to do in our next project. I've got helping me. I've got Kathy Badry, and this is, you love to sew, I know, and you love serging, and you love quick and easy.
And I love things that are simple, fast, and I love to embellish.
Right. So we can do all of these. I mean, we've sort of been talking about embroidery and talking about pile fabrics. This is the ultimate pile fabric. It's got the suede on one side, and it's got the Sherpa on the other. So
This is absolutely gorgeous, Linda.
It is.
It comes in lots of colors?
Yes, it does. It comes
Oh.
60 inches wide, and it's like sheepskin, but it's a washable sheepskin.
And care, easy.
Easy care and easy.
Wonderful.
So this is the vest that I've got on, but it's basically a reversible fabric. So let's have a look. I've got
Right.
another one to show you. So here we go. So this is wool, which is rather delightful. Of course, it looks far different from what I've got on. But
Very
the wool,
classy.
again, all you have to do is do the serging. Nice decorative edge on that one. It is reversible, so of course it then becomes reversible, so you can use it both ways. So there it is.
Wonderful.
We call it the classy, sassy vest. It's just kind of a classy little sassy. I mean, there's a front and a back. How many ways are there to mess that up?
Not possible, I don't think at all. But the look is so different.
Yes,
Like, I
it
mean,
is.
this is very classic.
Yeah.
This
And
would be
you can have it casual with your
gorgeous.
jeans, or you could dress it up whatever you want.
exactly
Okay,
a wonderful
Pam, you wanna
piece
do
to
this?
work. I do want to do this.
Okay, so what we did is we laid the pattern out, we cut it out. And again, you can cut right through. It's not that big a pile that you need to really worry. So you just cut it out. So use your electric scissors. That's a wonderful way to do it.
Oh, excellent idea.
So there, let's take that one off. And how are you going to sew it? That's the first trick.
That makes me curious.
So what I suggest you do is you put the wrong sides together. If you take it and try to overlap one over the other, it's really tricky to know what's going on under the underside.
Exactly,
So
you
we
could
think,
miss.
yeah, it's easier to just stitch a regular seam. And it doesn't even really matter the color. We tried to contrast it, but you can't even see it. It just
Totally
sinks right in.
disappears.
So once you've done that, cut 1/2 down to about half. So cut that one off, flip this over, and top stitch it. So it's like a flat felt seam, but you don't have to turn it
All
under.
the extra work is gone.
So here's what you get for your finished seam.
That is stunning.
That's just top stitch. So that makes it, I think it's kind of neat to give that a little bit. You could sew a regular seam. You could put the suede sides together and sew it and have it like this, and it would be all done, but it's not as exciting. So,
exactly. That's a much nicer finish.
I think
with
it's
a little
kinda
bit
neat.
peeking through.
Yeah. So we did the same thing with the wool, or with the reversible fabric as well. You could sew it and decide whichever side is your better side. Maybe this is the right side, this is the wrong side. We then took half of that seam off. You could serge that or do some kind of decorative, because that's what your specialty is.
You could put the decorative element that you're going to use on the front of the vest. You could use that on that edge before you stitch it down.
So then this becomes the better side. Who knows?
There is no good or right or wrong side,
there really
right?
isn't. So then you turn this and top stitch it. And, that would be the finished. So there we did it in contrast thread. And you could actually even use contrast thread if you want.
You could, and get a beautiful finish.
So that would be nice
it.
on the other side. You could go around the outside edge, of course, with your stitch as well.
Exactly, and that nice round curve.
Yeah.
It's easy
And this
to
is
do.
what we did on this one. This is another piece of fabric that isn't quite as thick and heavy as this one. It's the pleather on the one side and the pleece. We call it pleece, pleather and pleece.
And this is still one piece of fabric. We haven't sewn two pieces together here.
So what we did on this one was we top stitched it, because I said, well, you should do something, but you don't really have to do anything because it's not going to fray.
Exactly.
So we just top stitched it. I should just take this one off, because when you see it off, you'll sort of see that that's exactly what we did on this one. So you don't have to do anything because it's not going to go anywhere. But if you just top stitch that around that outside edge.
Just as that small piece of detail that goes with the top stitching
The only
of your
trick
seam.
on this one is you've got this funny little collar thing.
Yeah,
so you're actually going to sew right sides together on this. So let's just get a pin here. So we're going to sew this up, and we can just top stitch it flat. I think I've done that on this one. Well, actually, no, we've just put it the same way that I was just talking about,
for this,
so that it
for
looks
the
nice on
shoulders.
that side. And then you're just going to fit this in, and we'll put right there. So that's your shoulder seam. This works into there.
Is that
works into there
slit?
And works into there. So that's it.
Built-in collar.
Try it on. Do up your side seam. See how much or how short or how
much would the window go out?
And then that's basically going to be finished.
That is absolutely gorgeous.
So shall we embellish?
Well,
Maybe that's what we need to
better.
do. Well, we can put a toggle on it. And of course you could purchase just the toggle already done. Or you could take some toggles and just kind of take a little bit of leather. And if you look at this one, we just actually that was a purchased one, but you could take the little piece of leather, put your cord in it, and then just...
Well, and that's really nice, because if you're working with a fabric color that you can't find a matching toggle, just build your own.
This also makes great buttonholes, i.e. sew around it and cut it.
Excellent.
Like no
because
buttonhole.
you don't have to bind it.
Yeah, no, just
satin stitching involved.
Just straight stitch and do a buttonhole if you want.
Almost like a bound buttonhole without all the work.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. This I know you're fascinated with. This is the foiling business. So you basically take a special glue, and this is the glue that makes this adhere to this. This will stick to this. The foil will stick to the glue. So you can take the glue.
The magic medium.
Yes, it is. And you can take the glue, and you can then just go, and I won't do it on here, but you can just squirt it, and it can dry if you want. It doesn't have to dry. You would then put this on top. And how we got this, you might say, do you see those subtle little things? We actually made a stamp. We made a stamp out of a meat tray. And then covered this, plonk.
And I love the texturing that you
put into there. And then you put this on top. Put this on top, iron it, let it cool. Pull this away. And
all the foil stays.
Yeah, so you can do different colors. It comes in all different colors.
And that is gorgeous.
So I thought the ideal thing was, here's another piece of it. We just did a little piece. Is to embroider, and this is where your specialty comes in.
This is the part that I love to do.
Because I've been asked this so many times, is can you embroider on this? So what do you use?
You can. When you're doing computerized machine embroidery on a fabric such as the Sherpa, which has a pile, it's very important to realize that you can't, it's very difficult to be able to hoop that fabric because it is so thick.
It's so thick, yes.
So you need to use a sticky back stabilizer or a spray that's going to adhere your Sherpa into place.
Yeah.
A cutaway stabilizer in the back so that you can stabilize your design as well as a water-soluble film on top so that you don't actually lose your design into the embroidery.
Perfect. So you decide what design it is?
Yep, exactly. I work with any design that's available for my machine on diskette format.
Yep.
I pick it off of the color touch screen.
Decide on your decorative rayon thread.
Exactly,
Yep.
whatever thread that I want to work with. I like to work a lot with either very subtle tone on tone or contrast elements, but working within the same color family.
Sure.
Because I find it has a really subtle effect without being too brash.
We did it. I think this is going to be wonderful. We can add a little bit of foiling to that. We can
Exactly.
play
The little
around.
elements that you can
Yes,
add would be
yes.
fabulous.
So I hope we've got you inspired about all this, because we've got to go. We're out of time. But join us next time and we'll do it all over again. See you then.
To receive the companion book for this series, send $19.98 to the address on your screen or call 1-888-MacPhee.